Hatfield Historical Commission, June 3rd, a few minutes late. Looks like it's about 5 minutes after 7 or so. I don't know, since we've got an audience this time, we're not used to having audiences at this meeting. Why don't each of us introduce ourselves so if people don't know who we are, we can say that.
My name is Les Labarge. I live at 55 Elm Street. I'm on the Hatfield Historical Commission. I'm on the Hatfield Historical Society, and I represent the Hatfield Historical Commission on the CPA. Thank you.
Amy Hahn, 19 School Street, Historical Commission. I'm the Secretary of the Historical Society.
I'm George Ashley. I'm a member of the Historical Commission and I'm chair of it. I'm also a member of the Historical Society, and as probably some of you know, I'm the curator of the Farm Museum here in town.
Rick Martin, co-chair, Hatfield Historical Commission, lifetime member of the Hatfield Historical Society.
Charles Kellogg, a member of the commission and a member of the society.
All of us up here have a copy of the agenda for the meeting. Probably most of you don't. I'm just going to read through the agenda so you know what you're in for. We've got a couple of basically housekeeping kind of things to do at the beginning. We have to read the minutes of a previous meeting. We have notices. We have 2 notices from the planning board to read. I see we've got signatures on something so that I can get reimbursed on a bill that we have. I'm going to give a brief update on what's going on in the Historical Museum and an update on the Farm Museum, and then I'm going to have us discuss and possibly encumber some unexpended funds from fiscal year 2015. That probably won't take more than 10 minutes or so, but these are things we got to get through before we get to what most of you are here for, having to do with the center school. First of all, Charlie, you said that you don't have the minutes of the last meeting for us to read and discuss.
Correct.
Okay, but I know Amy has a copy of the minutes of the meeting of November 11th, which we never have previously read, discussed, and approved. So why don't we do that?
Okay, present George Ashley, Amy Hahn, Charles Kellogg, Les Labarge. Called to order 7:05 p.m. Minutes from the previous meeting of the Historical Commission were read by Charles Kellogg and accepted as amended. Fiscal year 2016 budget request, which is identical to the 2014 budget request, was reviewed and approved. The Historical Commission gave its approval to CPA funding for restoration work in the Hill Street Cemetery as proposed by Jonathan Appel, and the expenditure of approximately $200,000 for the restoration of the Prospect Court Bridge. Both expenditures will be voted on at town meeting. George reported that he has installed the new Farm Museum lights and has started putting up lumber for the additional storage. The project will be on hold over the winter and will be resumed when George returns in April. There was a brief discussion of the demolition delay law, which will be invoked if a demolition permit is submitted for the center school. Meeting adjourned at 7:35. Minutes recorded by Amy Hahn.
Anybody have any possible corrections on those?
No, motion be accepted as read.
Here. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Let's see, what else have we got here? Notices. I've got 2 notices from the planning board. One is for a public hearing on Wednesday, June 24th this year at 7 o'clock in the Memorial Town Hall here, probably in this room, to review application of Alternative Recycling Systems, LLC, on the property owned by Hatfield 27 West LLC, located at 77 West Street, Hatfield, Mass. Assessors map 219, lot 75, currently zoned industrial. The proposed project is for the modification of an existing special permit, which runs with the property. Said current permit is in the name of Brandon Kelly Trucking LLC in accordance with section so forth, and it gives all the references to the state statutes on that. That's on the 24th. Also, for the very same date, we have a memo here for a public hearing on an application filed by Mark O. Gillot for premises on 70 Elm Street, Hatfield, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 223, Lot 116, currently zoned rural residential for the purpose of subdividing the existing single-family dwelling by constructing interior walls and by adding a stair addition and constructing a new kitchen in the new second unit in accordance with Section 3 use regulations, subsection, and so forth, the citation of the law. But those are the two that I've received within the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So if any of you are interested in that, you can attend. Let's see. You've signed the stuff having to do with the paving. Update on the Historical Museum. Museum has been open regularly on both Tuesdays and Saturdays. Kathy's done a wonderful job putting together a new exhibit having to do with the Second World War, which opened when the town was celebrating Memorial Day about 10 days ago. And already she's had a large number of people come and take a look at the exhibit. And I went up and took a look, and it's very good, very nice. She will have a couple of people working in there in summer in addition to the volunteers, including somebody who will be doing more inventory work on some of the paper we have in the Farm Museum, some of the documents, in the Historical Museum. As far as the Farm Museum is concerned, we've opened that for the last 2 Saturdays, and we'll be doing that regularly through the rest of the summer into October. I'm in the process of preparing to put in what will in reality function as a kind of second floor over the last 2 bents on the south side in the museum, and we'll begin the work on that in probably about 10 days. I've got a group of 3rd graders coming in next week. I'm waiting for them to come in and do their work in the museum, their class projects in the museum before we begin doing that. And several people have volunteered to help us put in. The floors aren't going to be put in as permanent kinds of things. We've got rough cut lumber from Lashway that will be installed much in the same way that tobacco poles used to be installed in that barn, movable timbers. Which pretty much takes care of all the other business we had to take care of. Any of you out there have any questions? Yes.
I got one question. Where's that World War II display set up?
It's in one of those there are glass cases in the center of the historical. It's in the Historical Museum above the library.
Above the library.
Yeah, that's in the library.
In the library.
The Dickinson Memorial Building, technically. The whole second floor is the Historical Museum. And there's a very nice exhibit up there. And other things are continuously being contributed as people hoe through the attic and pull out things about their parents and grandparents. Some very nice things in there. Okay, almost certainly everybody in here knows, the town has hired Associated Building Wreckers to take down the center school across the street, and they filed an application for a demolition permit. I've got copies of it here. And the town's building commissioner has referred it to the Historical Commission, as is required by the, in common parlance we call the demolition delay bylaw. Technically, it's called a bylaw for preservation, for historic preservation. But everybody commonly calls it a demolition delay bylaw. The procedure which that requires is once we receive the application for a permit, what we have to do is within 2 weeks have a meeting, which we're doing right now, to discuss whether or not the building is historically significant. And that's what we'll be doing tonight. That's all we'll be doing tonight, is discussing whether or not the building is historically significant. If we decide it is not historically significant, we let the building commissioner know, and the building commissioner can issue a permit. If we decide that it is historically significant, what we do is schedule an open hearing to which absolutely anybody can come. That has to be within 30 days of today. And say anything they want to say about the building and what they want to be done with the building and what they see as the possible future of the building. And then at the end of that meeting or within 2 weeks afterwards, the commission votes on whether or not the building should be, in quotes, preferably preserved, which is legalese for putting a 1-year delay on the demolition of the building, allowing people who might be interested in proposing alternative uses of the building to get their act together and come up with that alternative use. So the kind of large discussion and argument about that largely would take place at an open hearing, which would be scheduled if we decide that the building is historically significant. And if you're concerned about on what basis that decision would have to be made, I'm going to literally read this from the bylaw. Significant building, and clarify that by that means historically significant building. Any building within the town which is in whole or in part 100 years or more old, and which has been determined by the commission, meaning the historical commission, or its designee to be significant based upon any of the following criteria, and it lists 3 criteria. 1, the building is listed on or is within an area listed on the National Register of Historic Places, which that building is, because it's part of the first historic district, which contains everything basically from the center of the town down to Maple Street, and across the river, including the Hill Cemetery.
Is that a national?
That is on the National
Yeah, it's
Register.
on the
It's on the
national
State
chart.
Register
Okay,
of
it's
Historic
state
Places
and national.
and on
Okay.
the National Register of
That makes
Historic
that
Places.
easy. Okay.
And has been for 20 some odd years, 25 years almost. Secondly, the building is importantly associated with one or more historic persons or events, or with the broad architectural, cultural, political, economic, or social history of the town or the Commonwealth. Or 3, the building is historically or architecturally important in terms of period, style, method of building, construction, or association with a recognized architect or builder, either by itself or in context of a group of buildings. Okay, so basically, that's the situation we're in right now. What we have to decide, what the 5 of us have to decide tonight, is whether or not the building is historically significant and whether or not we should have an open hearing on it. So, since there's a lot of you who've come to say something or listen to us say something, if any of you have anything to say, we're interested in hearing it.
Right.
Yes. Oh,
I went to the town hall.
yeah.
Okay. And I went to the assessor's office. Okay. And I want an assessment of the building, this one, and I want across the street. I did get it. Okay. Both of them. All right. This building was built in 1920, according to this. That
It
building
was
across the
actually-
street, right here.
Actually, I think the building was built in 1930.
Okay, but
This
it
one,
says,
1930.
George, now this come right out of the office, 1920, okay? The building across the street, built in 1920. So I walked up, so I got Kathy Dowd's little book out here, opened it up, and here it is. Hatfield Center School, erected in 1914. It's 100 years old, okay? This building here, you walk out the door, take a left, you look, there's a plaque on the side of the building, right in front, 1930. So I said to myself, well, we're at the assessor's office. I'm getting the thing here. I looked at it, I says, 1920, 1920. No, this is information right from here. And if you look, and if you go further into it, you look at the evaluation of the buildings. They're not that far off.
But the historic records are fairly clear. The building across the street was built in 1914.
What my little scamp was, how can you come up with 1920, 1920?
You have to ask the assessors that.
Yeah, I will.
You're on.
There you go.
I wasn't even born yet.
George, can I propose, I mean, I do think, people should be heard, but do we want to, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious since the building, it's on the National Historic Register, and that's right there. I mean,
So do you want to make a motion?
Yeah.
yeah, I motion that we vote to say it's an historic building. I don't see how we could see otherwise. It meets the definition that's here in the law.
Okay, so actually the term would be historically significant.
Historically significant. It is on the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay, so you made that motion. I hear a second on that.
Second.
Okay, so any discussion?
So, yeah, I think we should hear from the folks outside that have something to say.
Okay.
Does anybody out there have anything to say about this?
So,
It has to be a public hearing then, anyway.
so
This will,
Yeah, I have a feeling that most of what you want to say, when you'll be saying it, is at a public hearing.
Right.
yep.
I
Okay?
think the thing most helpful is what you just described, George, is what's the process?
Right, the process is cumbersome, but
Right.
most legal processes are. Okay? Actually, the most difficult thing we'll do tonight is trying to come up with a good time to have the hearing. because we got Charlie's got a big family reunion coming up, and you're going to be on vacation at certain points. But, okay, it's been, anybody else have anything else they want to say? Yes.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
George, if possible. I know the motion is on the floor to declare it a historically significant building. And I did a little research on my own that I'm hoping that I could maybe share with the Historical Commission at this point. I have a packet of material of 4 or 5 pages. Unfortunately, I don't have one for every member, but I did prepare something for the commission to ponder. And if you would allow me to share some of the documents that I have here with you and with the general public. In the document that was actually prepared by the consulting firm, HAI Architecture, Inc., that was submitted to the Board of Selectmen when they did the study for the school, the word historic in that document, the word historic was used 47 times to describe that building. There was no word in there that said non-historic. It was all historic. So I wanted to share that with you. The building was referred to once as the Historic Center School Building in that report, and it was described as a, quote, historic building, end quote, 13 times. The word preservation in that document occurred 10 times. And according to the report, the building is predicated upon a turn-of-the-century architectural topology, which features a common corridor stretching across the building's principal facade. The building is not on the historic register, but it resides in the Center School Historic District. But it is very possible that the Center School could possibly be registered as a historic building on the National Center for Historic Register of Historic Places. One of the pages is from Wikipedia, and it describes the Hatfield Center Historic District. That's on Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia that most of us know about. Interestingly enough, the building, the photo, the picture that shows the Hatfield Center Historic District is a picture of the center school. Mm-hmm. So I thought you guys would find that of interest and perhaps in support of your decision. In addition, I have found that there are 2 other school buildings in Massachusetts of the same vintage, of the same architecture. One lies in Southborough, and the other one, I believe, is in Bridgewater. Same vintage, same architecture, that classical revival architecture. Photos of each one are included in that package. Both of those buildings, one in 2011 and one in 2013, have actually, at the initiative of the local historical commission in both of those communities, have actually been placed and listed now on the National Register of Historic Places. So not only is this building referred to as historic, but it has the potential to be registered itself on the National Register of Historic Places. So I just thought I would share that series of documents with the commission, and would hope that you would consider.
Which actually then sort of shoots down what I was saying, that it's not on the
Actually,
historical
it's not
register.
on, but it's within a historic district.
George.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on the national, it's right here, it's under the United States Department of Interior, National Park Services, National Register of Historic Places, continuing sheet. It's on here, right here, Hatfield.
That is part of the information that was gathered almost 25 years ago by people like me and Rita Peru and a whole bunch of us as part of the establishment of the first historic district, which, as I said before, covers from just about here, south, and then out Maple Street, and just across the river to include the Hill Cemetery as well, which was the core of the original town when the town was established shortly before 1660. Anybody on the commission have anything else to say? I think it's fairly clear that that the building has historic significance. So I think we're ready for a vote on this. All those in favor of the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Now, the tricky thing is to come up with a date for a public hearing on this. Now, Charlie, I know you told me some time ago that you're going to be busy with family reunion.
Right, well, that will be actually occurring prior to the end of well, it's going to be happening in 2 weeks. And in terms of posting something for this, there shouldn't be a problem.
No, but I mean, I'm asking is, when is it not possible for you to come to a hearing? That's
Oh,
why.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The anytime after the third week of June would work out okay for me. So
Okay.
the third week is bad.
Third week of June is bad for you.
At the end
And I know
of,
you're going to be on vacation at some point, right?
Pretty much the same time, I think, getting my calendar.
When do we need to
here.
do this by?
Within 30 days from today.
Within 30 days,
Right.
okay.
Sounds like it's going to be the last week in June,
Yeah, that's,
okay?
24th.
What day of the week is?
Wednesday.
Normally, we've meet on a Wednesday.
We'll grab it right off the wall.
24th.
I am gone until the 27th.
You're going till the 27th?
Yeah, so I think we're looking at July 1st.
How about the first day of July?
That's 30 days,
That's my birthday.
28 days.
Within the, I want to give people plenty of notice on this. So how about the first day of July here? Okay?
Is that a Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Anybody have a problem with that?
It's Wednesday, yeah. July 1st.
Okay, so for the sake of all of you who obviously want to say something and have an opinion about this, it'll be here, it'll be at 7 o'clock, and it will be the first day of July, which is Wednesday. Okay? Anybody have any questions?
What time?
Yeah,
I do have a
7 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah. George, will you guys, will the Historical Commission actually be making a decision that evening?
The law says we
Which-
make a decision either at the end of the hearing or within 2 weeks afterwards.
2 weeks, okay.
And I'm under a deadline because on the 23rd of July, I go away for a week on vacation. So my guess is that more likely than not, we'll make a decision right at the end of that hearing. Depends on how much blood there is on the floor, okay?
We'll see.
Okay? Okay, I think that concludes that thing. I have one other business for the committee, but it has to do with our budget and probably is of no interest or significance to the rest of you. So we'll see you all in 29 days.
Appreciate
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for
Thank you for coming, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you, Rick.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other bit of business that I want to conclude, because I have a feeling we're going to get tied up in knots on this. And obviously, we're not going to be meeting until July. I want to make sure that we encumber the remaining funds in our budget so that I can use it in the construction work we're going to be doing in the Farm Museum. So I'll entertain a motion to encumber the remaining funds in the fiscal year 2015 budget.
Second?
Wait a minute, I have to
Okay.
you have to specify
Oh,
for
all
what?
Funds.
For use for purchases from Lashway Lumber
TK Miles.
and AK Miles
TK Miles, yeah.
and Home Depot. Okay?
Encumber
And I
the
can't
other.
give you an exact figure on that right at the moment because I still have not gotten a bill from Fire Control. Fire Control did come. It updated all of the fire extinguishers, and it's likely to be a big bill this year. It's likely to run up close to $350. And if that's the case, it probably is going to leave only about $250. But that's only a shot in the dark estimate. And since we're not going to be meeting again until after the end of the fiscal year, I think it would be a good idea to encumber the funds tonight. So basically, what I'll entertain is a motion to encumber all the remaining funds in the fiscal year 2015 budget for use to purchase materials from Lashway, AK Miles, and Home Depot.
Okay,
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So move.
Okay, do I hear a second?
second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. And do any of you have any other business you want to bring up?
Yeah, I've been doing, this hearing is of course going to be something. I have been trying to do research because, I hear a lot of stuff. People are saying, well, this happened and, the selectmen did this and the selectmen did that. And I want to be very clear on, when these things are brought up, I want to know what actually happened. I was looking at a folder today in the office that was a lot of the stuff that went on, and I made copies of a few things that I think are relevant, and that I'll make copies for everyone to look at. And what really was clear to me when I sat down and looked at it, and what I know from the meetings that I've been to, we've had some proposals for this building. Town meeting has always voted them down. 2008, we had some proposals that were just going to develop it into condos and leave us the fields behind. We voted those, we voted one of them down, but they were pretty much all alike. People say, well, why didn't they look at the other two? They were pretty much all alike. We would have voted any one of the three down. And we have not had any proposals. It's the RFP has been out there now for 7 years with, saying, here's the school, you can have a little strip of land, and here's the beach. No one has made any proposals. So, that's the history. And then at this last town meeting in October, everybody very much said they don't want to sell that land because they don't want it to go out of the town's hands. At which point it really became, well, if we don't want to sell that land because the report that the selectmen got from HAI, I believe, and I've looked at that report, I think that's on the table here. They interviewed developers, they asked them what would make this attractive to you, and basically it was, if we get the land and can build, 20 to 40 more units. So, and the town has very much expressed, I think clearly that they do not want that to happen. I'm not saying we shouldn't give it a second chance, but I think, there's certainly, it's possible another proposal will come through, but I just feel like if, we need to tell people.
I was on a subcommittee 10 years ago in 2005, and we were looking for proposals, what to do with that building. And that was, again, it was the same story. They got 4 proposals and nobody liked any of them, so nothing got done.
Yeah.
So this is the constant cycle, let's do something with the building, but you never get to that point where everybody's on board.
And, I'm thinking, well, at this point, people realize if they don't, if a proposal comes along and that's, maybe Peter Grandonico is going to come up with something, I don't know. But if a proposal comes along, it's going to be pretty much that or the building goes down, and I think people.
Yeah, that decision's
understand
already
that.
been
They're
made. They've
clear on
already
that.
voted the funds.
The one thing, that I think of is if the price of demolition goes up, if there are no proposals, we end up demolishing it in a year.
That's why we're here, because the price of demolition did go up.
Yes.
That's
I
quite
realize,
obvious.
well,
They
this is what I
didn't
think-
vote enough money
and-
to demolish the building.
Yeah. These are, and I'm just throwing these things
No,
out to
no,
think
no,
about,
no.
because obviously we're not
No.
making the decision now and we want it,
I
we're going to
have-
hear. But this is the one thing that
Yeah.
I worry about is, we invoke the delay, no proposals, and it's a year later, and it's going to cost us even more to tear it down, and we're going to have to go back to town meeting, go through this whole process again,
But my
which I
feeling
really
is,
want to avoid.
okay, but my feeling is this. I'd like to see us put a hold on it for a year, okay? All right, 1 year, okay? If it doesn't happen, it goes. That's the way I look at it. But at least we try to hold on it for a year. If it doesn't work out, it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, and like I said,
And
I'm
you're right
not-
about construction
I'm
costs,
not
it goes
saying
up
we
every day on
shouldn't.
a daily
I'm-
basis.
Yeah, I'm just.
Well, they
I'm
found
just,
much more asbestos in there than the original.
I'm just sort of throwing this out as things.
But you have to
keep
look
in
at,
mind,
you have
and
to look
that's
at other
all.
things. I'll give you an example. The city of Northampton. I went to school there, Hawley Junior High and the Sullivan Building.
Yeah.
Okay? They paid it, somebody paid $225,000 for that almost 30 years ago. But see how historically they kept it? All right, St. Michael's High School, that stood idle for 10 years, okay? Somebody came by, it's for the elderly, okay? It can be done, all right? All I'm asking for is a process of holding on for 1 year. If it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. At least we tried.
Okay, you know what?
A
I'm
historical
thinking
building.
that- Yeah, I'm thinking that I probably shouldn't have started this discussion.
This is
because I
actually
don't
getting
want
ahead of
this-
the game
Yeah,
because-
well, it's getting ahead of the
No,
game.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that's-
no, and I don't want people to think that like we
No,
dismissed them and
no,
then started
no.
talking about it. This is what,
No.
we're
I
going
want
to talk about at the hearing.
What I'm going to be most interested in hearing when we have the open hearing is what specific proposals people have, because the
That's-
unfortunate history has been, to my memory, at least 6 very specific proposals have been made for that building, and all of them have been turned down either by the selectmen or by the town meeting. So our record in the town has not been good on that sort of thing, partly because people are very insistent that those playing fields remain playing fields back there. And most developers want the playing fields along with the building.
Yeah, like I said,
Well,
yeah.
the
and
school was decommissioned in 1980. The town's had 35 years to
Yeah.
decide what to do with the building.
Yeah. At any rate,
That's the long look at it.
yeah, I think all of us would like
You
to
know,
see the building preserved.
You know,
The
and
problem
I
is
can
that-
see Les's point. 35 years, 36 years, what's another year?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to, I just wanted to, as I said, sort of
Okay,
put that
as far as I'm concerned, we're 5 people here, sitting here, all right? If we didn't have any interest in that building, we wouldn't be here. That's
Yeah.
the way I feel about
That's,
it.
we're all interested in historic
Yeah.
Right,
preservation.
I mean.
That's why we're on the commission.
When I went to the town hall and I got this paperwork, I looked at it and I said, I was frustrated about this. Both dates, 1920, and I'm saying to myself, doesn't anybody really care? Anybody really give a shit what's going on around here?
Well,
people
That's-
say, people do,
But
I mean, they were
I
here,
can't-
they do.
Les, having been an assessor, anything prior to 1960, the date really doesn't matter as far as assessments go.
Because they look at it as a piece of commercial
They're
property.
looking at it for the money, yep.
You know, that's the bottom line. They finally,
Yeah.
even my wife says, you know what,
That's
Les?
the job
The
of an
money
assessor.
talks.
What is it worth?
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line.
Whether it's historically significant or, what's the
Okay.
building worth?
what I'm going to be most interested in hearing when we have an open hearing on this, I know lots of people want to save the building.
Yeah.
I want to know
As do I.
what specific proposals people have,
that-
and what are the possibility of those actually coming to fruition. And like you,
and
Les, I'm
that's-
inclined to think the difference between hanging on to it for 35 years and 36 years is
That's another year.
Yeah.
maybe
Like I
another
said, just,
$100,000
you know,
for the town.
just-
Yeah,
Like I said,
really.
just having to
You're
go back to
right.
town
I agree
meeting
with
for
you.
demolition costs and having, a
does.
whole
I
other
mean, if you
round,
wait
but-
long enough, the
I have
building
to
will
say one
naturally
thing.
fall
I
down.
know.
This law
I
that
know.
was written up 4 years ago about this demolition, did you write this?
Yes.
Because it's excellent.
Well, it's
Excellent.
most
I'm
of the
not blowing
work.
smoke up your butt for telling you the truth.
George
It's
did the lion's
excellent.
share of the work on it.
It's based upon a model that's drafted by the State Historical Commission. And I adjusted it for Hatfield, partly because the town's very small size and the in great history of the town. But it's largely intended not for public buildings, it's largely intended for private buildings. And the intent isn't so much to hold up the demolition of buildings once people have decided to demolish them. It's very largely to make builders aware, and most of all developers aware, that if they do start messing around with a building that's historic, they're going to have a roadblock thrown in front of them. And so they come up with alternatives before they even file for a permit.
Yeah,
Okay?
It happened in Florence. It happened to a contractor
Yeah.
in Florence.
yeah.
Okay.
But the building is historically significant, mostly to the people that went to it.
Well, it goes beyond that. I mean, it's a major part of the cultural history of the town.
architect, and, the architecture, there's not, much of that around
here?
anymore.
Yeah?
This is $35,000.
Well,
All right.
But wait,
Don't
wait,
get-
wait, actually,
Entertain a
one of the
motion
things-
to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
No, go
I-
ahead.
Second,
I have a
second.
feeling we're acting as if we're adjourned and we're not.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Go ahead,
Motion-
Amy.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I just made one.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.